Okay, we'll do AP mastering. He did a video here called Vinyl Sound Quality Myths Destroyed. And this was like kind of a response to this guy here, Dom Sagalis. So he started this. This is his fault. We got a new AP mastering video because of this guy. I compared vinyl versus tape versus cassette versus streaming. Results were shocking. I don't know if it was really shocking. I don't know if I would say it was really shocking. One thing I'm noticing though, none of these people are talking about the fact that YouTube has a codec and you're going to be hearing it through that low quality codec. And I have I'm venturing a strong guess that AP mastering doesn't also. So he did this, he compared them, had people guess, blah, blah, anything to make the video longer. So it was a 20-minute video, totally could have been like 10 minutes tops. And then we got a response video from AP Mastering. Okay, AP Mastering, let's go. Vinyl sound quality myth destroyed.
I recently watched a YouTube video from a guy who compared one of his tracks played on a bunch of different formats. Vinyl, reel-to-reel tape.
I don't know why he didn't say who it was.
Cassette tape, Spotify.
No free clout, I'm guessing no free clout.
And there was differences in the sound quality, and he was interested in exploring those differences. And he concluded that vinyl had a certain warm sound characteristic, and it definitely did sound like that in his video. Now, I really do like these vision and theories. He's actually just playing it and he's like, listen to it, that's how it sounds. That's great. And I like to do a similar thing myself. However, I have to disagree with his conclusion that vinyl sounds warm in a certain way. In my personal opinion, and this might sound a bit heterodox, but vinyl doesn't have a sound, in my personal opinion. And I'm gonna debunk this myth that vinyl sounds a certain way by just doing the same thing. We're gonna play, we're gonna listen. And we're going to do the same thing. I've got some records here. All of these records I've personally mastered, so I have the original master files that we can compare to, and we're going to listen this time, not just with...
I feel like it doesn't even really matter, right? I don't understand. Why do you need the original master files unless it's like the unmastered version?
With one stylus, we're going to listen to two different types of styluses. So we have here an elliptical...
Really think this guy changed up his fit studio? Weaver, what did I say? What did I say before?
...stylus. And we also have a spherical stylus. And we're going to listen to the differences in sound quality between the two.
Are you saying he's not dressing like the Unabomber anymore?
And especially...
If I had to guess, like, it seemed like he was like making a studio or something in one of those other videos and he was filming in there for some reason. And then like, I'm guessing maybe there was no heating in there. I don't know.
Listen to the high-end response of the two different styluses. We're also going to listen to how different tracking weights affect the sound of vinyl. We're also going to hear the difference between hardware-based RIAA equalization and software-based, and we're really going to see how vinyl doesn't have a sound. It's all...
Bro, what I don't understand is like, why are we going into autistic detail where we're neglecting the fact that YouTube has a codec? Okay, look at this. There's several things you need to consider when you're talking about doing a video comparison, right? So YouTube, first of all, YouTube Music maxes out at 256 kbps. Well, actually, it might be different for the videos. I think it's like 156 or something like that. Because I know 256 is... Okay, here it is. It's 192 kbps. It's 192 kbps at 720p. 720 to 1080, it's 192 kbps. And then it's only 256 if you're using YouTube Premium. No, 256 only if you're using YouTube Premium. And I'm venturing most of you guys are not using YouTube Premium.
I've been waiting for your coverage of this since he dropped his vid. Smiley face.
Thank you, Shia. Appreciate that. Want to bet? What am I betting on?
Most of you guys are not using YouTube Premium.
This is 1 year, 11 months ago. I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed. It's not 320 though. It's not even 320, which first of all, that would, if it was 320, that would still be like MP3 quality. Like that's the best MP3 quality. It's not high. It's not like very high quality. So anyways, there's several things you need to consider too. Hold on, let me pull up Premiere. Because another thing too is like people aren't talking about what they're rendering it in either. Bluetooth makes some quality worse too.
My audiophile crystals sound so much better on vinyl, bro, I swear.
Yeah, I mean, hey, some people are into hi-fi stuff. Okay, so hold on. If you open up like Premiere, which is, you know, whatever like video application you're using, I'm pretty sure a lot of these people are not checking what they're rendering it in. If they are, then I don't know why they're not saying it. Only 20% of people with active listening can hear the difference between WAV and MP3. Well, the thing is, we're talking about the differences between like vinyl and tape and stuff like that. So we're getting down to like the nitty-gritty here. Nobody's talking about what they're rendering these videos in either, okay? And I think all this stuff makes a difference. Like what you're viewing it in, what the audio quality is. Now, I have my audio set to do 320, but that's because I edited it. Normally, when you don't edit it, I'm pretty sure it like tries to default to like 256 or 192. Like I changed the settings on mine to make sure it uploads at 320. So my point here is there's different things to consider that nobody's mentioning. 320 versus FLAC is really hard to distinguish. I mean, there are some differences though. There are some slight differences. I guess that's my point though, is nobody's talking about the codec, also what they're rendering it in.
About all of the different components which go into the experience of listening to vinyl. Most people know that vinyl is cut on a lathe. Now
Opus 256 is the best you can pull from YouTube. Okay, I'll just say that's probably correct. I'm pretty sure it is like 256 or something like that.
Spent a lot of time working in studios that cut vinyl, and when you switch back and forth between the master and
256 OGG is like 320 MP3. Okay, we'll just whatever. My point is the codec is something you need to discuss.
Preview on the lathe, which is listening directly back to what is being cut. Apart from the delay, there's very little difference between the two. It's almost indistinguishable. But of course, it's only if you're cutting in a pristine setup. Now the lacquer gets shipped to the factory and there's a galvanic process. Now of course if they don't use the right amount of silver, it's not in the bath long enough, then it's not going to plate properly, and then it's not going to be a very good result.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables here.
One thing that a lot of people don't know is after you've plated that, you actually have to cut the center hole again, and that is done manually. So if that's off, then you're going to get a drunk sound where it's going to be like ooh, when you play it back. You've probably heard some of that before. The original pressing of D-Lows in the Comatorium suffered from that problem, for example. Now in terms of playback, by far the most important bit is the preamp. Normally I'm not a massive preamp nerd, but when it comes to vinyl, that's where the RIAA equalization is baked in. So if you've got a weird equalization in there, it's going to sound very different to another preamp. Let's just demonstrate that now. This is a record listening to a Cambridge Audio vinyl preamp.
Another problem here is like there's different masters, right? You're gonna master differently for vinyl.
But what we can do is just plug the turntable in directly to a mixer without that vinyl equalization, and we'll see how that sounds. That's right, it sounds really tinny and weird. So we need to apply the RIAA equalization digitally with EQ. We can just do that now and listen to how that sounds.
That does sound very bassy. That does sound very bassy.
And as you can hear, that sounds completely different. And now, of course, we can just look what one sounds closer to the original master.
He wasn't banned.
Now, I personally feel that the Cambridge Audio preamplifier does a great job and it sounds the closest to the original master. Just plugging it straight into the mixer and EQing it digitally isn't going to give you the same result because of the...
I feel like this isn't really that the vinyl sound quality myth was destroyed. This is just like kind of like correcting it.
At the input of the mixer, and the cartridge isn't loaded properly and it's all a mess. So we're just going to roll with the Cambridge Audio preamplifier, but bear in mind that if you have a bad preamplifier or a different preamplifier that does a different type of curve and there's a whole bunch of different types of curves, then that might influence the sound of vinyl even more than whatever influence that the electroplating process and cutting process actually had on the sound of the music. This here is Vicarious Memories by These Hidden Hands, of which I'm one half of. But before we can even listen to anything at all, we need to set the vinyl player up. And one of the
this guy makes music. This guy makes music.
We need to know is the tracking weight. So let's put it on 0.5 grams.
Does EP mastering even make music? Dude, that's the most like stupid fucking thing people say.
So as you can hear, it just skips. We need to add more weight so that the needle stays in the groove. So what you'll find is if the tracking weight is too low, even if it doesn't skip, there'll be distortion and it won't sound good. You need a certain amount.
I feel like if these people of these channels did not make music, it would be pretty fucking obvious, okay? It would be pretty obvious. And I think it's really dumb when people call that into question. Like, there's no way you would know what you were talking about to a high degree.
Weight to get a good sound.
There are scales to measure your needle's tracking weight. He's not using one.
However, if it's too heavy, you'll get distortion as well, and you'll wear out the record and the needle excessively fast. So it's best to have it within a reasonable range, and we can hear
There's optimal tracking weight for each cartridge, bro. He's just saying whatever he knows. I know nothing about the weights for vinyl, so I'm not even going to pretend to.
there between 1 and 2 grams. There's not a spectacular difference between the different tracking weights. But so far we've been listening with an elliptical stylus. What is the difference between an elliptical and spherical stylus?
Why are we not playing the same part of the song over and over?
So unless you've got a bunch of wax stuck in your ears, you'll hear that the elliptical stylus is obviously brighter than the spherical stylus. So here you can really see that the character, the sound quality, especially the detail on the top end, isn't determined by the format of vinyl, full stop. It's determined in part by the stylus. And there's many different types of stylus that you can have. These are just 2 types that I've got laying around here, but you can get really high-end ones, and all different types with all different sound qualities. So we're starting to see that vinyl doesn't really have a sound. It's just what the cutting engineer wanted to do, and the aberrations in the manufacturing process influencing the final result. The main thing that you can hear there is crosstalk. There is crosstalk on vinyl, so you have less lush stereo image there. You can definitely hear that the stereo image is wider on the original master than it is on the vinyl. This is These Moments dismantled again by These Hidden Hands.
Bro, that kick drum though, Jesus Christ. Bro, the dynamic range on this is insane, dude. We just got like fucking like for a kick, and then like we got like a lady like whispering like yes, 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 yeah.
So the biggest differences there are the crosstalk, especially in the bass frequencies. The panning of the bass on the original master is very apparent.
Bro, I couldn't even really like, honestly, I couldn't really even follow that one because that song was very distracting. I was more distracted by that.
Very hard panned.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody falling down. I mean, like the drums kind of sound like somebody falling down the stairs, like while they have drums attached to them.
But on the vinyl version, it's very crosstalk together, almost mono. And the surface noise, of course, in that really quiet bass bit where you've just got the bass bloops, you've got
straight tone arm stays in the groove better.
Original master,
and curved.
but you've got huge amounts of surface noise on the record because it's really exposed and isolated. So that is going to be the main characteristic sound quality difference of vinyl, the sound of vinyl. If it has,
bro, how are people? Dude, none of these people watch my fucking shit. I can tell. Because, like, I'm giving you a fucking layup here for this video, man. AP Mastering, you had a layup here. You could have been like, hey, another thing that nobody mentions is the YouTube codec. Or rendering the video, the way you render the video. Because I said that with the DOM one, the stream.
the sound is going to be surface noise and maybe crosstalk. But you can cut stereo bass on vinyl. It's just less safe because a needle can jump out the groove. And if you want to prevent it from jumping out the groove, then you need to cut deeper. But then there's a limit to how deep you can cut because of the thickness of the lacquer, and also the electroplating process can only plate so thick.
Yeah, the album
This is
does
also a
look cool.
good example of how different pressing plants have different end results. We originally pressed this with a certain pressing plant that I won't name, and the surface noise was so high, the record was unlistenable in those quiet bass bloop sections. It was just ridiculously high surface noise. And then we pressed it again with another pressing plant. I think we went with Pvlace in Germany, and it just sounded way better. And that's the record that you just listen to. And it still got a lot of surface noise, but what we had before was a joke. And so different pressing plants can really influence the results. This is Feedful by Samuel District, absolute classic landmark techno album. Now, I didn't master the original version, which came out, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. I mastered this re-release, remastered version because they wanted a more modern rerun of this. Now, one of the members of Samuel District, Silent Servant, tragically passed away not too long ago. And since then, the price of this thing on Discogs has really gone up a lot to get one in mint condition. Silent Servant sent me this himself. And But the thing is, vinyls are to be played, and I'm never going to sell this. So we're going to open it right now, and we're going to play it and listen to it.
What about the original master? Okay, here we go. I mean, it does sound really similar.
So when people say,
I mean, it's close enough, man.
Vinyl has a really warm, bassy sound or something like that, it's interesting because there the original master actually sounded warmer and bassier than the vinyl version, especially with the elliptical stylus. This is Thrash and Burn by Ariel Pink.
I think we've heard enough. Is there any sort of conclusion here?
And then it depends on the quality of the galvanic process and the metals that they use in that process. It depends on whether the center hole was punched accurately in the manufacturing process. It depends on the type of materials and the temperature of the press when they're actually manufacturing.
How much to make one vinyl? A lot. It's a lot. That's the reason why people don't really make... Well, I mean, I guess that you could do a dub plate, but...
The vinyls themselves, it depends how the vinyl has been stored, how, if it's dusty, if it's clean. It depends then on the turntable, whether it is accurate or if it's got wow and flutter. It depends on the stylus, whether it's spherical or elliptical, and the quality of the stylus, whether it's worn out or whether it's new. It depends on the tracking weight on the arm of the stylus. It depends maybe even on the shape.
I mean, really, like, vinyl does have a different sound, but it just depends on a lot of variables that have more so to do with the equipment, it seems like.
Of the stylus arm.
Yeah, I agree. These comparisons should link to lossless files. They should link to the actual recordings, not just through a YouTube upload.
But I can't really talk about that because I haven't compared straight with S, but maybe there's a difference in sound quality there too. It also depends on the preamp and the RIAA equalization curve used in either the hardware box, or if you do that digitally somehow, it depends on the curve that you program in to listen back on. And obviously it's going to depend on your speakers and on your room when you're listening back. But removing the room and speakers out of the equation, just literally how it's coming through, it depends on...
Yeah, exactly. It's not better or worse. It's just different.
A lot of things in that process. So does vinyl sound warm? No, because it could actually sound quite harsh and bright depending on the processing, especially in...
Yeah, vinyl doesn't have a sound as long as you remove all the variables, the pressing, the needle, the preamp, etc.
The cutting. Maybe the cutting engineer wants to cut a bit longer, wants to take some bass out to boost the level up, but without taking as much space on the vinyl, so wants to take a bit of bass out. So maybe it sounds a bit harsh, and when you're playing it back with an elliptical stylus, maybe it sounds a bit harsh actually. Maybe it sounds very warm because you're playing it back with a spherical stylus and a cutting engineer cut with lots of bass because it's a 45, let's say, and it's only 5 minutes long, so there's plenty of space on the vinyl, so there's lots of space for the grooves to be nice and wide with lots of bass and very loud, and spherical stylus will give a more warm sound, so maybe it sounds very warm indeed. What about the high frequencies? Well, it depends again on the stylus, it depends on the tracking weight. There's so many things involved that you can't say that vinyl has a certain sound, because it's just not true. It's not true that vinyl sounds a certain way. The only thing that vinyl might more typically sound like, you might have like surface noise and static, because that is more characteristic of the format. But if you've got...
I think that's what people are talking about generally.
Really high quality press, so you're listening straight to a lacquer, for example, that's just been cut, there's almost none of that, and it sounds almost indistinguishable from the actual master on the computer or on the reel-to-reel master that you're cutting from. So debunked, vinyl doesn't really have a sound. It depends on too many things. YouTube claims that you're interested in watching this video.
I'm just disappointed that he didn't talk about the whole thing, like the whole codec, dude. Like, there's the YouTube codec and like how you render the video. Nobody's addressing that. Why is nobody addressing that? All right, just for good measure here.
What the fuck?
Okay. The irony is they like the noise while going to all the links to remove the noise. Yeah, because the difference was higher than the bitrate difference. Well, the thing is, you're not going to hear it as accurately. And I just think it's worth addressing that. You're not going to hear the differences as accurately as you would otherwise. So you need to address that. Reminder, guys, if you want to support the content here, make sure to hit the like button. That's the easiest way to support. Subscribe if you're new here. If you want to take that support a bit further, consider donating via Super Chat or the Stream Elements link in the description. Stream Elements link in the description is preferable because YouTube takes 30% of all Super Chats.